What's going on, YouTube? And today we're going to talk about Coastfire, how I achieved Coastfire for my family by the age of 35. Now, that was about 3 years ago. I'm 38 now, and I am considered Coastfire. Now, if you don't know what Coastfire is, the definition of Coastfire is when you accumulate enough in your retirement account where you can stop contributing to it and you'll have enough money to afford to live in retirement. So, here's the definition on the screen so you can get a clear picture. Now, if you didn't know, I'm not a financial expert. I'm a millionaire that built my wealth over time by different avenues from real estate, building up my stock portfolio, and even buying Pokemon cards. So, let's talk about this. So, what is my Coastfire number that I need to invest in by the age of 35? If you don't know how to calculate it, you just take your number and assume that it's gonna grow 6 or 7% year over year to hit your Coastfire number. So if you need $2 million, you can go on a calculator, which I'll show you right now. So you just find a calculator. I like using Dave Ramsey calculator because it doesn't give me ads and it's easy to calculate. So by the age of 35, 67, let's say you have $250,000 and it grows 7%. You'll have $2.33 million in retirement. And this is underestimating the numbers. And here's the reason why. The stock market on return average about 10 to 12%. So guess what? You're gonna have a lot more money, but you want to do long investment strategies at the worst possible case. And that's why I do 7%. If we put 10% and recalculate, you'll have $6 million. So you'll have somewhere between 2.3 million and $6 million if you put $0 in after the age of 35. So that's how I calculate my Coastfire number. So is this how much I have in it right now? No. Did I hit this number? Yes. So I'm considered Coastfire. I don't have to put another dollar in. And that's how I run my numbers. You can change it up. Let's say you only need $1 million. You have $100,000 in there and you're 35. Do you need a 7% growth? Do you need to put any more money in there? Well, you won't get exactly $1 million. You have 933,000. So did you hit Coastfire? Yeah, if you do the 10% rule, you can do the 10% and you have $2.42 million. But if you want to be on the safe side, make sure you have it before you hit Coastfire. Let's say you have $110,000 in there. Now you have $1.02 million for sure in your retirement account, with the risk being a lot lower because you did 7% instead. But if you do 10% of that, you'll end up calculating $2.6 million. So you'll have somewhere between $1.1 million to $2.6 million, maybe even $3 million. But this is how you calculate your number. You don't have to do any fancy math. You can just keep going in here, put in, let's say you have 50,000 and you do the 7% rule and you just calculate it. You only have 466,000. So you're going to have to add how much more a month to hit your numbers. You put $500, you hit 1.18 million. So if you need $1 million, these are how you run the numbers. You can just keep plugging them in until you get where you need to be. All right. The math for it is very simple, easy to do, and you can figure it out easily. So I hit Coastfire, and this is life after Coastfire. And the reason why I tell you to do it is because once the burden of aggressive saving is over with, once the burden of worrying about retirement is over with, guess what you get to do? You get to travel. The extra money you're putting into retirement, you can take that, drop it down to zero, and start enjoying life. Now, do you have to continue to work? Yeah, that's the whole point of Coastfire. Is you continue to work, but you don't have to invest anymore. Number two is investing, right? You can open a brokerage account for specific goals for early retirement, like I did. So instead of putting all your money for retirement, now you can start planning. Okay, maybe I want to build a bridge account. And you just put the extra money into a bridge account to figure out how much money you need to finish out your career and stop working to hit fire. And you can go back to the calculator. Let's say you spent 10 years on investing 500 bucks and you want to know how long that's going to last you. So let's go back to the Dave Ramsey. Let's say you're 55 and you want to do 10 years. It's just a 10 years different and you put it at zero for zero investment. And you put 500 bucks a month, calculate it, that's $86,000 and you're having a portfolio. Will that be enough for you to retire? No. But will that bridge the gap for retirement early? So that $86,000 you can use to retire early. What do you mean? I mean by that. That means, let's say, instead of waiting until 67, you have a bridge account to retire at 65 with $86,000 if you live off of $40,000 a month. I mean, if you live off of $40,000 a year. So guess what? You cost a brokerage account to save yourself a few years of retiring earlier. And that's what a bridge account is for. Now, if you want, let's say, to retire earlier and you need $40,000 a year, you just plug in the numbers. Let's say you put $1,000 in a bridge account. You'll have $173,000. That's about $40,000 a year. It's about 4 years. You can retire and not collect your Social Security and still get your full benefit. So guess what? That's 4 years earlier. Maybe you're going to collect early retirement at 62 and you want to retire before that. Guess what? You can retire 4 years before that and at 51 if you built a bridge account. And you just keep doing the math. And let's say you want to retire at 40 and how much money do you need? Well, you put it in a bridge account and you figure it out. Maybe you need to put $3,000 a month and that gives you $519,000. Now, if you take away $40,000 from that, and this is just rough math, you can probably retire, let's say, 14, 15 years earlier. So you can retire at 40 instead of 55, or let's say 62 is when you're going to collect Social Security. You can retire 15 years before that. So that'd be about 47 years old. And you probably could retire at 45 and take a 4% withdrawal rate from it and be just fine. So this is how you figure out your bridge account. Now, let's get into other things that Coastfire allow you to do. You to upgrade your house. And what do I mean by that? Maybe you were holding off home improvements. Maybe you want to renovate your kitchen. Maybe you want to add a hot tub, maybe a sauna. You have more money so you can start enjoying it. And this is where you can start doing it. Instead of trying to get to Fat Fire or Fire Movement, you just take a time to enjoy your money now while you're still young. That is just my personal opinion. And the big thing that Coastfire does for you, it gives you financial freedom. And you can pay off your house earlier because now you don't have to put all the money into retirement. You have flexibility. You can shift from part-time to flexible work for a better work-life balance. And it allows you to be more generous. So I showed you how to calculate it and how to figure it out based off using a calculator, very simple way for dummies and for people who don't want to sit there and do a bunch of math. So that's how I hit Coastfire and figured out my numbers. How I hit Coastfire, and here's my story, is I started a business, I worked full time, and I put every extra money I made into my 401k, into real estate. And that's how I end up building my wealth to hit Coastfire. So now that you know how I built my Coastfire, why I did it, and what now you know how I build up to Coastfire, how I figure out the math. Hopefully you figure out what's the best for you. Now, I enjoy Coastfire. I enjoy working. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to stop working until I get really bored of working. And then I can just retire completely and you know, enjoy my life. So like and subscribe to my video. That's all I got for you.